All right. 7 p.m., June 9th. This is the Town of Dartmouth Planning Board. Before we begin, I'd like to start off with the fact that the Planning Board voted in a public meeting to continue meeting virtually in accordance with the Governor's 2025 extension of the virtual/hybrid open meeting option through June 30th, 2027. Thus, we are still virtual. The other thing I'd like to add is that this meeting is being recorded. And at this point in time, we'll start off with a meeting roll call. Lori Ann Miller.
Present.
Margaret Sweet.
Present.
Kevin Estes.
Here.
Nick Cyclepatis here. Looking at tonight's agenda, we will need a motion to open the public hearing for agenda item number 1.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Margaret Sweet, seconded by Lori Ann. Margaret Sweet,
Yes.
Lori Ann,
Yes.
Kevin Estes,
Yes.
Nick Cyclepatis, yes. We will now need a motion to recess our meeting so that we can get to the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Motion by Margaret Sweet, seconded by Lori. Margaret Sweet,
Yes.
Lori Ann Miller,
Yes.
Kevin Estes,
Yes.
Nick Cyclepatis, yes. So we've now recessed our meeting, and we need a motion to open the public hearing in relation to agenda item number 1.
Moved.
So moved.
Kevin, was that you first?
Yes.
I think so.
Okay, motion made by Kevin Estes to open the public hearing and seconded by Lori. Kevin,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Nick Cyclepatis, yes. So that brings us to agenda item number 1, Scenic Roadway, PSR-25-1, which is known as 801 Rockadundy Road. And I think, Dan, should I allow, you want to take it from here for a moment?
Sure, just we need one more motion to waive the public reading
The
of
reading.
the notice.
So we need a motion to waive the reading of the public hearing notice unless otherwise requested by a board member.
Moved.
Second.
Motion made by Kevin and seconded by Margaret as it relates to waiving the reading of the public hearing. Kevin,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
and Lori.
Yes.
Nick Cyclepatis, yes. Which brings us to the public hearing.
Exactly. So this is, like you said, this is a scenic road request filed in the portal under PSR 25-1 for property located at 801 Rockadundy Road, also known as Assessors Map 23, Lot 22. This is an application to remove part of a stone wall that falls under a designated scenic road. It's going to be a like-for-like request for removing and replacing the wall in a portion of a driveway to be discontinued. The description on the portal reads as follows. Property currently has a circular driveway resulting in 2 enter exits on the road very close to a blind curve. They are proposing to move the driveway entrance further east on Rockadundy. This will make a much safer enter exit point by providing a much better view of oncoming cars, motorcycles, and the numerous bicyclists from both directions along Rockadundy. The stone removed from the new opening will be reused and relocated to close off the existing driveway opening at the western end. Last Wednesday, I met out on site with the applicant's representative as well as DPW Director Timothy Barber. Tim is also the tree warden, so we reviewed to make sure there were no trees that are going to be removed along the scenic roadway. Just as a point of reference, we just want to make the applicants aware that if approved by the planning board, they will also need a application for the curb cut onto the scenic road from the DPW. So that's a summary of this application before you.
Any questions from the board?
No, I think it's straightforward. I've driven by that road. I've driven by that address and I totally understand curves because I live on one, so I think it's straightforward.
The only question I have, Dan, does our bylaw require,
I'll just, Kevin, are you trying to say something? I'm sorry, my connection tonight is not the best.
okay. My question is, Dan, do the bylaws require a vendor to do the stonework or is can it be anybody? And this is less of a point about this particular application and more from my own knowledge.
Technically, they don't even have to do a replacement if the board so chooses to do it. They are proposing that to do a like-for-like replacement to close up an entrance, so no, there are no stipulations. It's a loose stone wall, so it's just gonna be taking the stones coming out of the section, that they're looking to put the new one and filling in the old extension. If you go out there, it's very clear that this will be an improvement for access and visibility on this site.
Can I ask a favor? I missed what Kevin asked, only because it was a connectivity issue. I'm surprised I didn't drop the meeting, but I lost part of the connection and the volume.
Just to repeat the question, I was interested in asking Dan, or I did ask Dan, if in the bylaws there's any requirement to have a vendor do the stonework or not, and he responded that basically no matter anything that we agree to is valid, even giving somebody relief from even replacing the wall.
At the board's discretion.
I do appreciate the fact that they're continuing to the wall and essentially just moving it. And I would like to see it be copied to the best of their abilities.
Sure. Dan, just to be clear, I understand this whole thing is gonna be native, right? They're using the same stone.
Exactly. I believe they have a representative here too that can confirm that. Mr. Chair, just one other thing too, as this is a public hearing, we want to make sure we open up to any questions or
Yep.
comments from the public as well.
So let's, before we do that, I just want to share the sentiment of Helio. Helio reached out to me and he wanted to share with the board, just to put it in the meeting, that he was on board with approving this, knowing that the materials used were going to be native, meaning from location A to B and vice versa. So that's Helio's sentiment. At the moment, is there anybody from the public that would like an opportunity to chime in?
Yes, my name's Mike. I'm representing them. So what we're doing was we're just taking the native stones that are on the wall and we're basically pulling them out and then plugging in the old driveway. So we're using the same stone. It's a native, stone. It's basically every stone you see when you drive on Rocket Dundee Road. All the old walls. That's what we're using.
That's great.
Understood. Much appreciated. Anyone else? Anyone else from the public? Do we board members have any questions for Mike? If not, I believe, Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, we're at a point where we'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Correct.
If there are no further comments on 801 Rocket Dundee Road, we'll proceed with the motion to close the public hearing.
Moved.
Second,
Motion moved by Kevin, seconded by Lori to close the public hearing regarding 801 Rocket Dundee Road. Kevin,
Yes.
Lori,
yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Nick Cyclepatis, yes. So we've closed the public hearing, and do we need a motion, Dan, to resume our meeting?
Nope, just to, now it's just a motion to approve or deny.
Understood. All right, so pleasure of the board regarding 801 Rocket Dundee as presented.
I move that we approve the taking of one driveway and opening up another one and closing up the existing driveway with the existing stone on Rockadundi Road. Does that make sense? I'm not sure I said
Yes,
it right.
it does. It does. Motion made by Lori to approve 801 Rockadundy Road using the native materials as stated.
Second,
Seconded by Kevin. Motion to approve 801 Rockadundy by Lori. Lori?
Yes,
Kevin?
yes.
Margaret?
Yes.
Nick Cyclepatis, yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank
you.
you, Mike.
Thank
you.
Appreciate you being here.
Yep, no problem. Thank you.
All right. This brings us to administrative items. Agenda item number 1 is basically to approve the revised plans of 1402 Tucker Road, Assessor Map 167, Lot 95, and the site plan review as stated PSPR-24-7. These have come before us. The plans have been revised / updated, and this is going to be an opportunity for Dan to read and share with us the DPW conditions or the conditions recommended by DPW via an approval letter going back to April 30th, 2025.
Yeah, so
Dan?
again, this is site plan review for 1402 Tucker Road, also known as map 167, lot 95. At the previous meeting, it was discussed a conflict between some of the proposed tree plantings and the drainage system. So that has been revised with a revision date of May 14th, 2025. If the board so chooses to approve, I would recommend 2 conditions. We have not received the hard copies yet, so I would recommend the standard condition that we have, that the applicant shall submit 3 full-size hard copy sets and 2 drainage reports, along with an electronic plan set and CAD of the final plan set. Plans deemed complete by the planning director as final approved plans would be forwarded to the building department. That's a pretty standard condition we met, but just want to put that in there because we have not received the hard copies yet. The other condition we talked about at the last meeting was a recommendation by the DPW in a letter for approval on April 30th, 2025. The recommended condition approval was as follows: a final stamped as-built plan and calculations in both hard copy and digital format shall be submitted to the Town of Dartmouth Planning Department and the DPW Engineering Division and approved within 30 days of completion and prior to any DPW sign-offs on certificate of occupancy. The plan shall also contain a certification by an engineer and land surveyor that the location shown on the plan represent the locations as constructed. And that would be it.
Thank you, Dan. So fair to say at this point in time, we can, as a board, ask Dan any questions and or consider the administrative approval of what Dan shared with us based on the plans being updated. How do you guys feel? What are our questions?
The main question I have for Dan is that, is your feeling that the updated plans, albeit not presented in hard copy yet, but the plans that you have in hand are plans that are reflective of our intent from the last meeting?
Correct. Office staff has reviewed the changes that was submitted and they meet what was requested of the planning board at the last meeting.
Okay.
I have a question. They've given us their, we can see how they want the building to look architecturally. If for some reason they have to tear down the existing building, can we put something in there that they have to rebuild according to the architectural plan that they gave us? Because what they give us, or is that not appropriate?
We do have a note that we put on all certificates of action that any substantial changes on the plan referenced in the certificate of action shall require additional planning board review and approval. So if that was the case, they would have to come back to us or at least submit plans to show what they were proposing and then deemed if it
Okay.
needed amendment.
Okay,
Dan, do you, have you talked to the engineer and the people yet? Do they know yet whether they're gonna keep that barn or not?
I talked to the engineer shortly after the last meeting, and the intent is to keep the barn. That is the plan as of today.
But again,
I believe an representative for the engineer is on, so if he would like to comment to confirm that information.
yeah, could we hear from him?
Yeah, Tom Morris with Zenith Consulting Engineers. The intent, as long as everything goes as planned, is to keep it. The only reason it would be torn down is if they run into something that they're not expecting.
So-
Dan, if they tear down the barn, they have to come before the planning board again?
Yes, I would think that would be
Will that be somewhere that?
a
is that
substantial
listed?
change.
Oh, that's, okay,
Yeah,
Alright.
that'll be listed in the certificate of action for any substantial
Okay.
change.
all
You
right,
could include that in the motion, Margaret, if you wanted to.
okay. I'm fine with it. The plans now, the way they stand. I would make a motion to approve. If there's any substantial change, for example, tearing down the barn, then it would be mandatory that they come before site plan review again.
Motion made
second
by
that.
Margaret.
I would
To-
second that.
Lori, that was you?
Yeah,
Mr. Chair,
Motion.
Mr. Chair, I just want to make sure we include that motion for that condition as well as the two conditions that I outlined previously.
Yeah. So motion made, including motion made by Margaret Sweet, seconded by Lori Ann, to include the conditions that you referenced, as well as the fact that if the barn was to come down, any and all plans are to come by or through site plan review. Correct?
Yes, Dan, do you want to repeat those two conditions again?
I can. So the one condition will be applicant shall submit 3 full-size hard copy sets and 2 drainage reports, as well as an electronic plan set in both PDF and CAD files of the final plan set. Plans deemed complete by the planning director as final approved plans will be forwarded to the building department. That was the one condition, which is a pretty standard conditions we do
Right.
on this. And then as part of the DPW's approval letter dated April 30th, 2025, final stamped as-built plans and calculations in both hard copy and digital format shall be submitted to the Town of Dartmouth Planning Department and the DPW Engineering Division and approved within 30 days of completion and prior to any DPW sign-offs on certificate of occupancy. The plan shall also contain a certification by an engineer and land surveyor that the locations shown on the plan represent the locations as constructed.
Thank you, Dan. So that is my motion, including those two that Dan just spoke.
And motion made by Margaret, seconded by Lori. Margaret,
Yes,
Lori,
yes,
Kevin,
Yes,
Nick Cyclepatis, yes.
Okay, thank you. Have a good night.
thank
Thank
you, you
you.
too. Good luck.
Thank you, Tom. All right, this brings us to item number 2, ongoing discussion regarding 2026 priority list previously discussed and so on. So I did touch base with Dan and Ross. We brought this agenda item up and I like the idea of it staying on the agenda. They were curious about how we were going to go about it. We just had some open discussion. Couple of questions I have is, and I think we agreed, do we as a board like the idea that this is an agenda item, regardless if on any given week, maybe we don't have time to spend a lot of time on it? The fact that we're touching upon it from meeting to meeting, are we good with it?
Yes,
yes.
Yeah.
Lori and Kevin, we're good? Okay,
Yeah.
great. So we'll keep it as an agenda item and then we'll let the schedule dictate how much time we can spend when we get to it. But I think it's a great idea. So with that in mind, does anybody want to share anything as it relates to our priority list?
I had asked the chair, and he had graciously said, okay, if I could have someone come before us and speak about housing, elderly housing. And I believe Ross said that we can have someone, Mike Mattis is gonna come before the board. I want to say the first week of July. Am I right, Dan?
Ross, that sounds right. Do you remember the date
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
wrote down on that?
That is ringing a bell. I have it
I want to say,
tentatively. Yeah. I want to say
Like-
it's the first one in July, I
yeah,
think.
yes, first one in July.
Great.
So he's gonna come because he's a developer and he works for the housing authority. I mean, he's a volunteer on the housing authority and he has a lot of knowledge in this. So maybe he can start really guiding us to what we really have to do to get this going.
Excellent, very nice. And regarding that, before I ask if anybody else has anything regarding the priority list, Margaret, or all of you actually, because you were all on the board. What is developing an overlay district like? Is it a 6 to 12 month process? I mean, I know town meeting, it's got to get to town meeting, but the process, is it 12 to 24 months? How long might it take if we truly focus on an increased density overlay district?
I think about 3 months, 3 to 4 months. What do you say, Laurie?
Yeah, it's fairly easy. Well, it's not fairly easy, but what we would do is we would look at what areas we would be interested in doing that type of overlay. And then it's just a question of sitting down with our maps and developing that overlay. I strongly recommend going by property lines, because you don't want to take someone's property and put it in and out of the overlay.
Right. Mm.
What we would do
Right.
is say, okay, let's say we want to do it on, just say Tucker Road. I'm just going to throw out a Tucker Road. We would look along Tucker Road and say, well, we want this area to be an overlay. And then we would just look at the, all the parcels that are there and go along a property line. So first we have to decide where we want it, what area, then we have to decide by looking at the maps, what parcels to put in it. And then we're gonna have to decide exactly what we want the overlay district to say.
Understood, okay.
And Laurie, don't we have to have a public hearing for the overlay district? So that anybody that's coming into that overlay district has a right to come to the
Correct.
meeting? Right, okay.
Correct.
Do we have to notify the people that are in that proposed district of the meeting and as well as abutters?
When we did the Bliss Corner area, we did notify everyone.
Mm.
I don't know if you have to do it by law, but I think we would have to do it it's the right thing to do.
Yeah,
It's a good
I
idea.
agree with you on that. I would, whatever it takes on that, I would like to include anybody that has a parcel inside the proposed district once it's defined, as well as any abutters.
Yeah, I
know when
think-
we did,
I
know
agree as
when we
well.
did
I
the
don't
Bliss-
want, the fact that I'm raising the question, I don't want anybody to misinterpret my interest in the subject as pulling a fast one. Absolutely. I'm on board with that.
when we did the Bliss Corner district, it was interesting because there were some people who came to the meeting who said, would you please include my parcel? And we hadn't included some parcels. Would you please include my parcel in it? And there were 1 or 2 people who said, could you take my parcel out? And it all seemed to work because like one of the parcels was at the very end of the district and a couple of the other people were at the other end of the district and wanted to get in. So, I mean, it was a fairly smooth process.
Right, okay.
So then
So
we just have to sell the town meeting.
say that again,
Yes.
Kev?
Yeah, I mean, the next big step is
Town meeting.
to get it through town
Yeah.
meeting.
Yeah.
Because Dan, correct me if I'm wrong, I think that's a 2/3 vote, not a 50-50.
It depends on if there's affordable housing involved in it. If there's affordable housing, new regulations from the state say it's only a 50-50, well, 50+1 vote if there is an affordable housing component. One thing I would recommend that was recommended to me, we're in the process of doing a new housing production plan for the town. So it was advised to me that we should have that by the end of the year. So I think we should use that as guidance for what we want to do for either through an overlay or different regulations, because that'll give us guidance from Serped and help us to formulate where some needs may be. So I think that would be prudent to wait until we have that housing production plan in effect.
I don't disagree, and I know you shared some of that. I don't disagree at all. I have another question, though, directly related to this. Is affordable housing and increased density going to be one and the same? Or should we, based on what's happening, let's just say based on what's happening on Dartmouth Street with Claremont, and based on what could happen on other roads that are not on Route 6 with increased density or affordable housing, in this case, affordable housing, do we want to consider both an overlay that relates directly to increased density? Because when we're using the phrase increased density, it's got two applications. In my mind, it's got, yeah, 40Bs are increased density, but they're a whole different animal as it relates to the state and what the state can govern above and beyond us, compared to increased density as it relates to a thoroughfare like Route 6, where we want to have opportunity for developers of both commercial and residential applications, where there's a chance in that the housing may not be affordable, and by definition, on one particular project. So is it wise of us to consider a 10-year horizon, thinking that we need overlays that apply to both, but yet separately and distinct, affordable versus increased density? Or is it reasonable to think that we can do it all in one? Me personally, I'm thinking they're two different subject matters. The affordable side is going to be directly related to facilitating the town so that it can meet its quota, whereby it doesn't have to be told by the state what it's going to do on any given project. And then the increased density is going to increase the mixed use and commercial opportunity going up and down, let's say 6, to attract developers. I personally feel like they're two different flavors, but I'm not telling you that I'm correct. I'm curious what your opinions are.
Well, my opinion is it is two different items. The Route 6 corridor should be one thing and housing should be something else, okay? Because even though perhaps we might put some housing on that Route 6 corridor, that's entirely different than affordable housing. My
Agreed.
opinion.
Anyone else?
I have to give that some thought. I have to think of how we could do it. We could do an overlay district. Okay, we're going to use Route 6 now as an example. We're going to do an overlay district that allows density, mixed use. But we could somehow throw in affordable housing in there without having to redo a district. But we also want to put affordable housing in other areas of town too. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting concept. I'll have to think about that.
See,
Yeah, I feel that I'm just going to take a moment, and I'm glad we have time tonight. I feel that the phrase affordable housing is differently attractive to developers than the potential of mixed use / increased density, where they're not governed by affordable or looking to meet the standards of affordable or the quotas of affordable. So I feel like moving forward, we may have affordable housing overlays or opportunities in different parts of town because we're fulfilling our housing obligation and we're looking to think ahead so that we're not presented with, let's just say, what others may view as a development crisis because the state can govern for something to happen. So we're going to set the stage for opportunity in the affordable housing sector, perhaps in multiple parts of town, as a result of an overlay. Equally so, I feel like the increased density that needs to happen or will happen over time should not be burdened by the word affordable, because it may be a deterrent to some developer's mind as to what he or she wants to do. And now we have words and/or we have two different purposes, perhaps ruining the opportunity for which the town can collect money, and we can better use the space on the second and third or fourth floors that don't exist along Route 6 right now. So obviously, we're going to talk about it. It's not tonight. We're not going to come to a conclusion. If there's opportunity for both to exist, and I don't want to use the words coexist, but separately and distinctly, I like that, because I think it leaves less room for ambiguity or discussion and consideration. It becomes more a matter of fact. Like, yes, this is what it is, and this is where it is. Maybe, Lori, maybe in the increased density, if we get to this point, it can have its definition that maintains its distinctness, if you would, from the affordable overlay, but there could be a phrase not to exclude, or affordable could be included. But yet we have a distinct increased density overlay district. But we allow for the affordable housing definition to be included in it, not by which someone can be turned down because they're not engaging in affordable housing, but if they're engaging in a project in that increased density overlay district and 20% of their project could be affordable and they want to do it, so be it. But we're not telling them in that increased density that 20% of the square footage has to be affordable, because then I
Yeah.
feel like we're trying to govern what's going to happen there too. And
No, that would be a good way to do it.
Governing what happens versus creating distinct opportunities are two different things. So that's just my mindset. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, that would be a good way to do it. My idea of affordable housing is you're going to get, no matter where it is, the only way you're going to get affordable housing is if you allow them more density. I mean, right now, they're allowed, say, one house per acre. You're not going to get affordable housing unless you say to them, okay,
Right.
you're going to guarantee me affordable housing, therefore we will give you 2 houses per acre instead of 1, or 3 houses, or whatever the formula is that works.
Sure.
So, but my question is, when it comes to affordable housing, are we going to do an overlay district for that, or are we going to do it through the whole town?
Well, so I don't have the answer, but I want to, in a very reflex
think
way, I want to say something to you, or to all of us, and to those who may be watching or look into this. I find, and I know we all do, I find it's a real struggle to do what's best for the town, the existing residents, what they own, and the integrity and preservation of what they own as it results to values and so on because of what it is. So what am I getting at? I feel like if we want to preserve perhaps the integrity of the town, the roads we drive every day and what they look like, we have to seriously consider how much an overlay should allow for one lot to be cut up. In other words, just because we need affordable housing, and just because we might have the ability to put together an overlay and propose it and maybe get buy-in at town meeting, does that necessarily mean that that's the best solution? I would love to know, I would love to know if, and Dan, I don't know if there's a way to do this over time, but there is a way. It's just, it's an intense project. If we created an increased density overlay, what could the housing units be in that overlay once it was developed? Or let's just say a 3, 5, and 7 year, or a 3, 5, 7, and 10 year plan. How many units might we put up in that increased density overlay district? How many of them might be affordable, depending on how we go about the previous subject 5 minutes ago? And if that's the case, do we really need to consider changing zoning or the affordable homes and reducing lot sizes, when ultimately reducing lot size is going to make a major impact on what everybody wants to preserve? So is that really the best way to achieve the affordable housing when we might have many other opportunities to do it within, and this is I'm contradicting myself, but either within the increased density overlay, or quite frankly, not necessarily changing the lot dimensions and the 1 acre, but creating an overlay for affordable housing in different parts of town where it would be best suited and have the least amount of impact. So I know it's a mouthful and I know I'm rambling, but I think there's a way to get this not right, but fall into the best interest of the town category. You know, and as we spend time on it.
Yeah, I think these
I-
items we can bring up through the Housing Production Plan Committee. I think these are things that we can get support from Serped for what they've done in other towns. I know some towns have incentives that you can have increased density if you have a certain percentage that's affordable. There's certain state programs that we can look into that have monetary value to the town by implementing those overlay districts. So I think there's a few different paths we can go down, and it would be good to, have a good, plus and minus of each option before we start heading down one path or the other, or multiple paths.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna say one thing. I think it's a slippery slope when we start thinking that we're gonna, further divide, let's say 1 acre lots or 2 acre lots. I think what comes first is the people of this town, where they live and what they own, okay? I think that, the mixed use, let's say Route 6, because that's what I'm thinking, we would do that overlay. If we would do an overlay in mixed use, and that's a general business, but at the same time, you wouldn't have to go and get a variance if you wanted to put it above a building or above a retail place, if you wanted to make apartments or condos, that would be allowed as of right. That's what I'm thinking, okay? I'm not thinking of changing zoning, as some towns in Massachusetts have gotten rid of single-family zoning. I don't believe in that, okay? So that's just my feeling, okay? And I feel strongly on it, Nick.
yeah. Well, before we move on, I feel exactly the way you do. And I just think there are many ways and places to create affordable options and increase density without impacting that zoning.
Yeah, I think there is too. And I think that when a developer comes into town and he wants to do affordable housing, maybe some of the bylaws could be rewritten so it would be easier for him to get it through, okay?
Sure.
That's what I'm thinking. And there's certain ones that may be coming before us, but they're all gonna be 40Bs, so we don't get to see them. They go
Right.
right to zoning.
Right.
Mr.
The
Chair,
initial-
if I can add one more point,
Of course.
just what we talked about in previous meetings, a lot of these fall in the goals of the master plan. So these are items that were worked out through various groupings of the master plan, and we outlined some of those like I said, at previous meetings. One of them being a mixed use and overlay. So I think we can do things that are in line with the goals of the master plan that the town decided to put into the latest rendition of the master plan as well.
Great, Dan. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Okay.
one of the things that I had fought for and was never able to get through was, what the islands do is for every unit you build, you have to build one affordable unit. So if you come before the planning board, I don't know remember what theirs was. It was a very low number, but let's say you're coming before the planning board and you want to put in 10 homes. One of those units has to be affordable. And that's how they do it out on the islands, and it works for them.
Yeah, I don't know, Lori. I mean, so what does that mean?
I don't know.
You're in the woods of South Dartmouth and you got 20 acres, and some are gonna go to open space and some are gonna be 2 acre lots, and then somewhere in that development, there needs to be one that falls under affordable. It might be a
Correct.
lot to ask.
Well, my understanding is that we're talking exclusively about a zone that we're setting up, an overlay district.
Oh, within it.
Yeah,
Oh, fair enough. I think that would be a great statement within the overlay. That would be a great way to achieve our affordable. And I don't know, Lori, now that we said within the overlay, that might even be a little bit loose, maybe it can be 80-20. It's not a lot to ask for within the overlay.
Yeah, but I don't think I think when Laurie tried to present that, Laurie, it wasn't an overlay district, it was just.
No, it wasn't.
No, it wasn't an overlay district. It's just if somebody comes in and they wanted to put 7 houses or 10 houses, it has to be a limit. Let's say 10 houses. Then one of those houses has to be affordable. Now, the only thing that I can see, Laurie, about that may provide a problem is who's building. If the developer's building all the 10 houses, then absolutely right. But if he's selling the lots, then
You
how
have
are
a
you gonna,
problem.
they've got a problem. But if a
Right.
developer's putting all the houses in, then yes, he can put in one affordable housing. Okay. So that's something that we would have to really define. But it was not in an overlay district, Nick.
Understood. Dan, is a lot of what we're talking about going to fall into the housing production plan? I mean, are these things, is this conversation more or less exactly what's going to be had there?
That's my hope, and that's what I'm assuming. We're gonna get a lot of feedback from Serped and different work they've done in other South Coast communities, and they'll be able to give us feedback set up based on our input from the various departments that are part of it. We have 2 board members that are on the committee as well, so I think we'll have good representation. So that's the impression I'm led to believe.
Great. Anyone else on this subject or more importantly, any other parts of the priority list that we want to share or work on tonight?
I just, if we're done with this topic, I have to reach out and find out when the next meeting of the water, the ad hoc water committee is going to transpire, and make sure that I haven't seen any discussion about it, and I need to reach out and find out when that's going to be.
Kevin, forgive me, but I am having a little technical. Did you say the water committee that you want to reach out and find out when the next meeting is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I know there's been one meeting, I was unfortunately out of town for, and I haven't seen any chatter about the next meeting.
Okay. All right. If there's nothing else, am I correct? We're good to move on at this point? Number 3 is minutes. Perhaps a traditional motion to.
Make a motion to approve?
Motion made by Margaret,
Second,
second by Kevin. Margaret,
Yes.
Kevin,
yes.
Lori,
Yes,
Nick, yes. Number 4, correspondence. Any questions? If not,
Motion to acknowledge and file?
motion made by Kevin to acknowledge and file,
second,
second by Lori. Kevin,
Yes.
Lori,
yes,
Margaret,
Yes.
Nick, yes. Brings us to number 5, for your information, old business, new business. Dan, you want to jump in?
I don't know if everybody had a chance to look in the packet. There were a few zoning decisions. They were all items that I had brought up in previous meetings. A couple setback issues and one for a special permit for having a bathroom in an accessory building required a special permit that was granted by the zoning board. I don't know if anybody's got any questions on any of those.
Anything interesting? Those are coming up, or those were
No,
decided?
those were the incoming ones that we get to say they were approved.
Is there anything?
We don't have any new incoming ones. There will be one probably for the next meeting, but nothing proposed. I think the next meeting is in July for the zoning board.
I just want to make one comment, if I may, Dan, about, putting in a bathroom or a sink in an outbuilding. That should be as of right. If you have a barn and you have animals, you need water in the barn, okay? And you probably need to wash your hands because you've got animals in the barn. They make people go to the ZBA to get that. And you want to talk about changes, that should be a change, all right?
I mean, the reason they do it was because they didn't want people to have a second accessory dwelling unit on there. Now we
Wow,
have the ADUs, so it's a little bit different now, because now you can do an ADU by right. But
right.
that was the intent of the special permits. If you were just gonna do a pool house where you're gonna put a bathroom in, which it's gonna be the same people, whether they go to the bathroom in the pool house or in the house, or
Right.
if they are working at a farm, they're either gonna wash their hands in the barn or they're gonna go back to the house. Rather do it in the barn than track whatever you're working
Right.
on into the
Right.
house. But it's a little bit different, so I don't know if they have any
Well,
taste to update that requirement.
they should update that because when I was on the zoning board, when you put a pool house in, man, not me, but some of the members on the ZBA used to make people squirm to put a a lavette in a john in a pool
Oh,
house.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
Which I always thought was just absolutely ridiculous. And now look, you can put a whole nother house in your lot.
Yep, yep.
All right, subcommittee reports? Anyone?
I went to a Serpide meeting and I was glad that I attended this meeting. There was some very interesting potential changes handed down from the state. And I notified Dan and Ross about these meetings, and I think they've done some extra work on it. So rather than me butcher what they have uncovered with what I have heard, I'd rather just hand it off to them to catch everybody up to date with the current status of what was discussed, much to the surprise of most of the Serpide member representatives.
Thank you, Kev. Dan or Ross?
Yeah, after speaking with Kevin, I had reached out to the assistant town administrator, who was also at the meeting. Also reached out to the environmental affairs coordinator, conservation commission, and the board of health. They were all kind of surprised by the news. Nobody had a real lot of information. There are meetings scheduled for the fall, I believe, to discuss them. I mean, basically, it kind of acts like it's consolidating any kind of alternative energy, wind turbines, solar panels, geothermal, into one overarching state permit. The question is, what does that do to local regs? And as of yet, nobody has a real answer. So it's something we need to keep an eye on going forward. I don't know if Kevin, if you've got any additional information outside of what we talked about.
I don't have anything new, but I mean, picture if it's kind of it struck, and this was, I believe this was brought up during the meeting, that it's almost like a 40B but specifically tailored to a development that is entirely energy related, and it would potentially go around and allow a developer to avoid any local regulation as long as they complied with the state level regulations. And a lot of towns has said, hey, when, or I asked specifically, I said, when is the comment period ending on this? And they said, well, it ended yesterday, which was Tuesday, before the Wednesday meeting. And supposedly it was that comment period was softened, not formally, so that Serpide could get their 2 cents in by the Friday following the meeting. But that left all the towns to say, there's no way we're going to get our comments pulled together, this being Wednesday night, and trying to get it in, if they allow it, on Friday. So one of my big contentions is, we need an opportunity to be heard on this. Or maybe we don't, and it's already very quietly come and gone. I don't know.
I said, it seemed like there was going to be hearings in the fall. The research Russ and I did, we're definitely not alone in our concerns and the vagueness of some of the requirements or what it entails. So there were a lot of letters that were written from various just citizens of towns, developers of these projects, a myriad of different people involved. So I definitely think there's going to be another round to I don't know if it'll be public hearings or what it'll be, but I think there'll be another bite of the apple, at least to hopefully be able to voice our opinions.
Well, I don't want to make it seem like Dartmouth was behind the times.
Oh, no.
Every
Yeah.
town at Serpide,
Yeah.
I hopefully this stays within decorum, but every town pulled a Scooby-Doo and just went, what? Nobody had heard anything about this, and this was absolutely wait. I must be misinterpreting what you're saying. So I did ask for and supplied the PowerPoint presentation to Ross and Dan that Serpide made based on what they knew about the proposed ideas for regulations that were being thrown around. But this was I was flabbergasted by it, and I really think that we need to speak up, and we need to dig and make sure that if we have an opportunity to fight this, or at least just get a better understanding. I mean, who knows? They could hand something down that was, very amenable to the town. But if that were the case, I don't think they would have to hand it down. We do it ourselves. But so I'm guessing that some of their ideas, once they finally get to the stage where they can be passed down to a town and enforced as a state reg, then there's probably going to be something in there we don't like.
Well, it all sounds so great, windmills and off the grid and all this. We have to remember, look what happened to Spain. Look what happened a couple of weeks ago. They had nothing, no power, nothing. It's my feeling that you never completely can get off the grid. Okay. And to have a development come in without the town having any say in it frightens me.
Whether it's power, whether it's anytime a town doesn't have the ability to speak and make some controlled decision about what happens in the town, I think that's that's just it's not right.
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 It's frightening.
My question is this: is there a legitimate opportunity for opposition?
That's part of what I would like to find out. Because I was the one that raised the hand and during the meeting and said, when did the comment period expire? And they said, yeah, that happened yesterday. And that's when everybody kind of threw up their arms. That anybody that was at the meeting threw up their arms, like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
Right.
Nobody knew about this. There was no outreach. There was no. There were some comments. I can only imagine that somebody, may have had access to the information for whatever reason. But it certainly wasn't because it was promoted and advertised in a wide fashion.
Right. Do we? This is just a random thought. As we learn more, Worrying about the whole state opposing it is a big task, considering we're just one town in the southeastern corner here. But is it worth us as a board or a member of the board reaching out and collaborating and building an opposition within what's defined as the South Coast? Getting the towns and cities of the South Coast aware of this, trying to build a letter of opposition representative of the South Coast instead of trying to fight it as one small town. Do you think that's a valid effort, or is that?
Well, that's what Serpent did submit a
Yeah.
letter.
They had a letter that they
Okay.
drafted
Okay,
quickly, and they asked us, meaning the member towns,
yep,
for our comments to be returned. But the meeting was Wednesday night.
yeah,
They wanted the comments back by
Tuesday.
close of business on Thursday, the
Okay.
following day. So they could submit by Friday, which was apparently, they were told that that would be the soft extension.
understood, okay.
So I knew that was not gonna even be a possibility.
Right,
You know, we still don't even understand what we're commenting on.
yeah,
So it's,
That's
I did get some information. If you have, if any questions about it, Dan and Ross, they do have some links to some very, very high level information, as well as some very detailed information.
okay, great,
But nothing in between. The high level information is really kind of like, hey, this is what we're thinking about doing. And really not useful.
thank you, Kev, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Anything else in the subcommittee department? If not, that'll bring us to the planner's report, and Dan will chime in about 581 Fonts Corner Road minor plan modifications.
So this one is more looking for clarification, understanding for the board, me being a new planning director here, and trying to get a feel for what the board would be looking for in situations like this. So 581 had some minor modifications to the plans, mostly had to do with slight alterations in the water line, changing some elevations in piping. Nothing that would look different on the surface for a site plan. I sent the changes to the DPW to have them look at it. They didn't see it as much of an issue, just some minor modifications they're proposing. So this kind of goes back to a comment we had earlier, where on the site plans, we have the note that says, you know, if any modifications need to be submitted, it's kind of up to the discretion of the planning director to make a determination. On the surface, something like this seemed very minor, and I would have been comfortable making the determination that they wouldn't need to come back to site plan review. But this being the first one that I've been presented to, I wanted to just try to get some clarification from the board. If you are comfortable with me making that determination in this regards, I can go through a little bit of the changes, a little more specifically. The plans are in the portal. I had the applicant redline the changes on 4 sheets of the plan set. They're in there. Again, it's all subsurface modifications, so it's nothing that changes any of the conditions of the site plan approval. So I think this would fall under the definition of something that's not a substantial change, that this is a minor change that in the past, the planning directors would deem as a minor modification that they would just okay in administratively in office. But like I said, being the new guy, I just want to make sure I present this to the board, make sure you're comfortable in a situation like this, or if there are specific reasons, obviously, if things change with the site plan, layouts, buildings, and the other one, obviously, those would be things we're going to be having an amendment to a site plan, hopefully coming before the board for the next meeting. Looking at those, that looked like it was a clear need for an amendment. But I'm just looking for the boards to just give me some insight, just to say, yeah, this is something that we'd feel comfortable with you being able to look at and make that determination before I gave the applicant the okay, or if it's something the board wants to see back as an amendment to the site plan.
So Dan, we're talking about mostly DPW stuff.
Yeah, so it's literally 4 things. I can go through them real quick for you. On the demo plan, they updated just to show that they needed to demo a certain area that was slightly different than the demo plan on the original plan. This had to do with an updated water line path, in the addition of the storm pipe clean out. On the drainage plan, various storm pipe inverts adjusted to accommodate the new storm pipe and clean out. Pipe clean out and manhole have been added to the storm sewer network. On the utility plan, water line has a new path to the building as well as a new connection to the building. And on the detail sheet, a clean out detail has been added. Like I said, I brought them before the engineering division at the DPW too, just to get their feel on if they felt it needed an amendment, and they were comfortable just making the changes and have them submit for when they go for their water and sewer construction permits.
Well, I don't have a problem, Dan. The only thing that I brings to mind is Commerce Way. We had such problems with
Oh,
drainage.
yeah, yeah.
Honest to God, Dan, we had so much problems with drainage on Commerce Way that the board had to get involved in that.
Oh, exactly. If things are changing with calculations that need to be adjusted, if they're gonna interfere with other buildings, that's why I had the applicant redline the plans. If you look in there, you can see what I'm talking about. It's
Yeah,
just,
no.
it's just the minor stuff. So I going forward, I don't want to say it's burdening the board, but I don't want to have things that are minor that don't affect your approvals
Well,
take
I
up
don't
time that you don't need to
I don't
see.
have problems with minor stuff, as long as we never do another Commerce Way.
Oh, you're gonna see that again, so be ready. It's
Right.
coming.
I
Well,
shared,
Dan-
my sentiment, I stopped in and saw Dan and Ross, and what I felt was that if it's below grade
Right,
and DPW and the engineers are on board, and it's not changing the calculations, and it doesn't abut and or affect an aquifer, what really is there for us to comment on? And if Dan can maintain those standards, below grade, on board with DPW and the engineers, not changing the calculations, not abutting or affecting an aquifer, then quite frankly, it's an administrative function. That was my opinion.
I agree with that summary, Nick. I think it's important for Dan's purpose to make sure that his counterpart in another department takes a look at it and says, yep, I feel the same way, and we're not gonna, we view it as administrative already, and we'll go for it. That's that gives you a check and balance, Dan, that you can rely on.
Right. Have another set of eyes on it, so it's not a unilateral decision.
Lori, are
Right,
you
I
equally
understand.
comfortable, or do you have a comment?
No, I'm equally comfortable. I don't see anything that would be affecting anything that we approved. As long as Dan, are you getting a written write-off from DPW on this?
Yeah, I sent the plans over to them. They had some minor comments that they were gonna send back to the applicant. The applicant looked at them, said they're nothing of consequence, so given the okay for this, I will reach out to the DPW. Have them send, I didn't want the applicant to send plans back if they were gonna have to come in for an amended site plan. So now, if the board's comfortable with that, I can have them send back, and the DPW can write a letter saying that the changes were satisfactory.
Okay, I'm comfortable, very. Do we need to take a vote on that for some reason, just
Yes,
to cover our bases?
Dan or Ross, do we need a motion or a vote? Do we need a vote on that, or do we just?
I was just kind of asking for a general opinion, with this one
Right.
being an example of what I was talking about.
Sure.
So
To be
I
fair,
don't know if
though,
it rises to a vote, but that's up to the board.
how does the board feel?
I don't think we.
Well,
need to
can we
on-
vote on something that wasn't
Right,
Yeah, it
agenda?
wasn't, right. But Dan, if you can, since it's how it was presented, try and maintain those standards. Below grade, DPW and engineers are on board, calculations don't change. does not abut or affect an aquifer, and then basically that's the sentiment of the board tonight as presented.
It's exactly what I was looking for, so thank you.
Okay, fair. All right, Dan, what about master plan implementation or any department updates?
That just kind of goes back to a lot of what we talked about. We were kind of highlighting the land use and housing, so that's things we're working on as part of the master plan implementation. And then the last one was for the planning department update, the site plan review guide. This was kind of, again, interdepartment process that we've been kind of working on for at least 6 months with the DPW. Ross has been working on it before that, even with an intern that we had in the office. So I don't know if Ross just wants to give a quick update on this and just kind of give the board an idea of what we're looking to do.
Sure. Yeah, so essentially what you're seeing is a bunch of slides that I worked with Dan and with the office intern when he was with us, of commonly seen things that are missed out on the first draft of plan sets, especially noting things that would classify as a complete plan set is one of the first slides. There's an aspect of Article 24 that has a list of 13, I believe, items that classify a plan set as being complete and being eligible to go before the planning board. Those are listed. Commonly missed things that we've seen or that the planning board has been requesting over my time here. Hopefully the goal would be they review that prior to uploading and already have those things accounted for prior to Dan and I's first review of the drafts, hopefully mitigating even one full draft set, thus hopefully streamlining the entire process. I'm hoping to, if the planning board is okay with this, give you guys a week or two to peruse, get back to me with any comments. I'll upload those and eventually put this on the website and on the portal as a PDF so that any incoming applicants are kind of notified to go look at this beforehand, similar to a narrative checklist that I created about 2 years ago now. Essentially, it shows them what they need to have in their narrative to provide the most information and hopefully mitigate questions ahead of time. So it's very similar to that. The goal just being to streamline the process and to make engineers aware of things that we see time and time again that aren't being on the first draft set.
Thank you, Ross.
Sure.
Any questions at this point? If
Ross,
not,
I think
what's
when I
that?
was in there this morning, I spoke about this. One of my pet peeves being on the planning board is that engineers don't seem to be able to read, because this is very explicit. This is what needs to be presented to the planning board to get on the planning board agenda. And yet I have yet to see an engineer submit the full plans, which means we have 2 or 3 meetings to finish whatever it will be, a subdivision or something like was just on Tucker Road. Ross, we talked about this. You have a checkoff list, right?
There's those first couple slides have those minimum requirements to be completed or to be deemed a complete set. I do have a checklist of the narrative, like I mentioned, but I don't have an actual checklist of what they need. That essentially is the first part of Article 24. It lists them out 1 through 13 or 15. And I pretty much, well, I did verbatim copy and paste them into the first couple slides. I think it's the big green text,
The
if
green
I'm
text.
off of memory.
It is.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
If-
if I could just add a comment to it. I think what this does is it just, not that I have sympathy for engineers or anything, but
No.
say it 1 time, Dan.
it gives
Okay, Dan.
it gives for lack of better terms, a visual learner kind of guide to to making sure everything's there rather than somebody that's just reading the regulations. So it gives people another perspective to see, okay, visually, this is what we're looking for. So I think it gives some clarification. Again, like I said, we've been working with the DPW as well, because a lot of things get missed at the DPW are looking for. So this clearly shows kind of how the DPW as well as the planning department would like the plans to look, where the data is, the information specifically what we're looking for, and it gives them a visual picture as opposed to reading regulations that sometimes you can get bogged down in and miss things on occasion.
Yeah, I think it's a great job. It's really, I'm looking through what I'm saying, because I'm visual. And looking
Right.
through this, I said, oh, this really tells me exactly what I need to do. But yet for years, hopefully this takes care of the problem. For years, we fought, why are we having 4 meetings on this? Because you never presented all the plans.
Correct.
And it's wasting it is wasting our time when we could be working on the master plan if we only had 2 meetings instead of 4 meetings. So I think this is a step forward. Hopefully it will do it.
Well, the other thing too, though, Laurie, that kind of is a little aggravating is that other boards think because because an engineer comes back 3 or 4 times, that the planning board isn't doing their job.
That,
Okay.
yes.
Correct.
So that's kind of irks me a little. So I'd like to see that stopped. I'd like to see the engineers come before us twice. But I also would like to see if the plan isn't complete, I don't want to see them. Don't
Right.
bring them before us. That's my feeling.
And this will help both Ross and I if there is a question, say, did you look at this? Look at page 4. This is what we're looking for. So it's not a back and forth. They send us something that's not quite right, try to explain it again. This gives a good visual representation of what we're looking at. Us, and again, like I said, the engineering division.
Thank you,
And
Dan.
ultimately,
Go
oh,
ahead,
sorry,
Ron.
Nick. The goal too would be, if a new plan set comes in, and something or 2 or 3 come in and we notice another trend, this thing can always be modified and updated and amended to pretty much satisfy things that we see are missing as time goes on as well. So it can be an ongoing thing to roll with the times.
Nice. All right. Chairperson's report.
Hey, can I just, Mr. Chairman, can I just add one quick
Yeah, of course.
add on to that? One thing Ross and I have talked about too is the site plan review is going on about 10 years now. So we in staff would like to take a look into doing some updates to Article 24. I don't know if that's something that the board would be agreeable to start getting that ball rolling, whether it's, setting up a workshop with other departments. Other departments have concerns about our regulations all the time. Having a workshop with a few other departments, maybe a couple members of the planning board, to start getting that process going, to address some of these things that come up. Everything, as you can see at town meeting all the time, regulations are well thought out, but as they become active, there's things that don't quite work the way intended, or things that were missed, or things that needed to be added. So I and Ross, I think, will agree. It's something we would like to start to take a look at that aspect as well.
I think it's a great idea. I don't know if, I don't know what involvement you're looking for, or aside from what you might be looking for, is it a good idea that we, the board, review and collaborate a bit here in these meetings as to how we feel about some of it, and or what we might want to see amended to present it to you? Or are you looking for a board member or 2 to collaborate with you, Ross, and another board or 2? How do you want the planning board to contribute to that, as a board or individually?
I would definitely take the input of all the board members, but I would view it as kind of, like I said, starting out as a workshop, where we could get some input from other departments, a board member or two if they'd like to be involved,
Agreed.
so we can at least get that going. We have notes not only from Ross and I, but from previous planners that had taken notes and have draft revisions that I found in files in the office, and kind of take all these pieces together and take a deep dive into seeing what might be a good idea to give an update to Article 24.
Okay, great. So if that starts to materialize, who's going to facilitate that? Is that something that you're going to facilitate and reach out to another board or two and then share with us? You're looking for one of us or two of us to join in?
Yeah, because we can keep that in under the ongoing discussion for the priority list, because it's
Right.
parts of the priority list that site plan review will impact. So it's, information we can gather and bring back under that ongoing discussion for priority
Excellent.
lists.
All right, great.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Sadly, the chairperson's report is quite short. I don't have anything to share tonight. I shared something with Dan and Ross, and I'm going to share it with the three of you are here and that are here, and I'll pass it on to Helio. By no means at any point in time hold back from sharing anything, including constructive criticism and or the function of the meeting. Most of you know that I'm relatively new at this. So, chairperson is a title, but I'm a pretty humble guy. And I think constructive criticism is one of the best meals anyone can eat. So my message tonight is I'm one of you, and I'm probably the one that's got the most to learn. So just know that I am that approachable and in public humbled enough to appreciate any constructive criticism and or direction through any of these meetings. So, and I mean that, and I'm sharing it for a reason, because I'm asking for the help ultimately. So other than that, I don't have anything to report tonight. Ross, is our next meeting scheduled for the 23rd?
That's correct. Yep, June 23rd.
And then that's, let me ask you this, that means the following meeting, if I'm correct, no, we'll be beyond the 4th of July vacation day, correct? So we're good.
We should, yeah, we should.
think-
Tentatively, it's probably July 7th, but I will confirm. I'm just looking
Okay.
at the calendar on my laptop. It's probably July 7th.
Perfect. I mean, well, I say perfect. I'm assuming 4th of July is on Friday, correct?
Yes.
So I assume, no, I don't know. Some people might have Thursday off. Some people might have Monday off. It depends on their employment, I guess. Okay. All
Yes.
right. But for now, June 23rd.
Yes.
And if there's not anything else to share and we're good with tonight, someone else can make that magic motion.
Nick,
Motion
before we
to
make the
adjourn.
magic notion, I personally think you're doing a fantastic job as chairman.
That's
So do
sweet.
I.
I appreciate that, but
So do I, Nick.
please help me. Thank you,
Doing a
Mark.
good job, Nick.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well done. And great backdrop too, by the way.
Yeah, so no, tonight it's the first time that I've been on the board that I got out of my office in time to have a meeting. I'm in my wife's office on the first floor. So I actually told her, I said, be out of your office. I don't want to go upstairs. I'm going to be in your office and have a meeting tonight. So I got lucky. So, but most of them will be from my office in the white square room. No big deal. All right.
Well done, Nick.
Lori, you wanted to say something?
No, I did. I said you're doing a fantastic job.
No, but you said before I make that magic motion.
That's, okay, so I moved.
He's fishing. He
I
can't make
moved
it.
to adjourn the meeting. I'm sorry.
Second.
Excellent. All right, motion made by Lori, seconded by Kevin to adjourn the meeting. Lori,
But yeah, yes.
Kevin,
Yes.
Margaret,
Yes.
Nick, yes. Dan
Good
and
night.
Ross, as always, we thank you, and I thank everyone. Look forward to the next meeting.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good
Good
night, all.
night.
Good night. Bye-bye.